I call to order the Joint Facilities and Special Committee meeting of the Board of Education of Hinsdale Township High School District 86. The meeting is being held in Hinsdale South Innovations Lab. It's December 6, 2019, and it is 7:31 a.m. Recording Secretary, please call a roll or a facsimile thereof.
Member Camden.
Here.
Member Cheval.
Here.
Member Turek. And we do not have a quorum for the special committee.
Very well. Should we do roll anyways though, just to record?
Yes.
Good idea.
And then add as they...
Member Turek. Member Admire.
Here.
Member Cashman.
Here.
Member Carpenter. Member Cassell. Member Edwards. Member Elkek, I'm sorry.
Here.
Member Lundgren. Member Lyons.
Here.
Member Ochoa.
Here.
Member Orput. Member Planson.
That's a lot of lumps of coal. Please stand if you are able and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So moving on to section 2, we have several items 2.1 through 2.6. We'll have representatives from Cotter and Dorothy and Pepper and Archon speaking to us to lead on the discussion on those.
Good morning, Hinsdale South, and happy Friday. Don't forget to stop by the cafeteria this morning for hot chocolate with a hornet. We're serving hot chocolate in the cafeteria this morning before school.
So good morning, everyone. We've been very busy getting ready for the bid package coming up, and we've got a lot of news to share this morning. I'll kick it off, this was working. There we go. So here's the agenda. This is going to be, Pepper will go over our bid period 1 review and an explanation of construction contingency and energy incentive updates. I'll give you a brief update on solar panel concept. And then Archon will be talking about voice notification, fire alarms, and zoning update. And then D86, Jess will talk about the lighted crosswalk request. So Lance, are you going to do your...
I think Marty's going to take a budget update with the...
There you go. I just put that in the
Sure.
reference.
Morning, everybody. Just a quick update on kind of where we are, point in time. So obviously December 2019, we're here to talk about bid period 1, phase 1 bid results. Just looking forward a little bit, January again is our out to bid for bid period 2 for phase 1 work. And in February, we'll be looking to seek a recommendation for award for that bid period 2, phase 1 work. And then we'll also at that time have an update on the phase 2 budget at that time. And then still trending or looking for construction start in May. So we're going to look at our bid results. So on November 21st, we held our first bid opening for bid period 1, which is the phase 1 work that will start in May, really. There were 4 packages that were put out to bid. We bid the track surfaces at both schools, the tennis court surfaces at both schools, the roofs that we're going to do in 2020 at both schools, and then there were some select air handling unit replacements that are part of the hot water boiler upgrades here at South. And the reason for this early bid period, again, was really to lock in the contractors that we think, sort of the specialty trades, and obviously the roofing being a large package. We wanted to make sure we secured the contractors that we wanted to get to bid on the project. So we'll walk through each one here. So track surfaces, a little difficult to see up there, but there was one bidder on the track surfaces. Track Surfaces Company is the name of the bidder. And with them, sat down, reviewed the scope of work. Reviewed the scope of work with them to ensure that they had everything covered. Felt comfortable with them. We did have one alternate that the district did not decide to proceed with the different colored transition zones on the track. So the combined base bid for Lowell Schools for Track Surfaces Company, $302,000. Second bid package was the tennis courts at both schools. This is only the surface of the tennis courts. We will bid the actual asphalt and subgrade work in the bid period 2 that we'll put out in January. Again, the reason being is that obviously there's very few companies that do this work, so we wanted to get in early to make sure we had them locked in for summer schedule-wise. So US Tennis Court Construction was our bidder. $157,000. Again, this includes the surfacing of the tennis courts and the associated equipment with the tennis courts.
Marty, as I say, just so you know, it's pretty common for the tennis surfaces and the track surfaces. There's very few bidders. It's really specialized work, and there's really you'll usually only get 1 to 2 bids in this category on all of our projects, because there's just very few people that actually do that work in this area. And most of them are travelers that come from out of state.
How many did you go out to?
Maybe a half dozen?
There's a few on each of them. Again, there's not a lot of people that come into the state that do this. So there were, I think, 2 or 3 on the track surfaces, and I think 2 or 3 we tried, 3 I think on the tennis courts.
What's the manufactured product for the track surface?
This one is, I mean,
Put me on the spot.
It's your thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a sprayed urethane system. I forget the manufacturer's exact name, but it's a structural urethane spray.
any concerns with any, Steve, that you're aware of, or?
Well, some are better than others. I'd be curious who it is.
Yeah, we can check.
Just give me 2 seconds. Just curious, so bid openings are public, right?
Yes.
All right, so if there's only one guy that submits a bid, he knows he's the only guy.
Well, he doesn't know.
He doesn't
the
know
only
the time.
one
Doesn't know until he shows up.
Until he shows up at the bid opening.
Then he goes out there.
Well, yeah, but then you scope him out and you do that, so he doesn't have any incentive to tighten up his numbers.
There is no.
There's no type
Can't
of.
type
You
it
Yeah.
out.
can't tighten, you can't go
No
back to him
negotiation
and
after.
negotiate it down.
No, not in
Not in public. Okay, thank you.
So, to that point, budget-wise, for both of these items, you know, obviously it's right on budget or where we thought it was going to be. If, like you said, if they knew they were the only bidder and they marked it up, then that would be a different conversation. But for both of these items, we're right near our target budget on these.
Yeah, right.
Is the budget on there?
Yes.
Pardon?
Is the budget up there?
The target.
per time?
No.
Okay, I just,
In general, across all the packages, we came in about 5% under our
Okay.
target budget for this bid period.
Yeah, and you'll see when we pull up the next slide for the air
Okay.
handling units, you'll see why. But for these 3 packages we see here, these are right on target, and you'll see a little bit in a moment with the air handling units where we got that 5%. So roofing wise, so you see there's quite a large spread of the numbers here. Again, they range pretty high for the package deals, all the way to 8 million down to 3.5 million. So again, reason for that is, you know, good and bad. Guys are early in the season. They know there's a lot of work left out there to bid. We had good participation in the bid. So, you know, where the field was, we felt comfortable. We sat down. F&G Roofing was the low bidder. They've actually done work at South previously. They're familiar with Archon and their details. We sat down, spent a good hour and a half, 2 hours really running through their bid with them, talking about the labor, talking about the schedule, understanding where their number was, felt confident in their number. So there really was no reason, anything that we found, where they couldn't perform the job. So we decided to recommend award to them after sitting down with them and spending some time with them. Any questions on those 3 packages?
Seems like the numbers should be 1.6, 1.7. You know, $300,000 is a big number.
That's why we spent like an hour and a half
Yeah.
with him. I mean, we gave him every opportunity. I mean, we actually scoped out the other bidders and found out all their areas, man days, squares of roof,
Right.
lineal feet of sheet metal. So he knows he's extremely competitive on this project. And he even said that he didn't, the project that he did at South, his price per square foot is higher on this one than the one that he did on South. So he was uber competitive on this job, and we really needed it, so.
Yeah, no, that's great.
But we did spend a lot of time with him, because the last thing we want to do is bring somebody on board and have problems. I mean, we gave him every opportunity. I mean, his big delta was on Central. He was like 25% under budget, or not under budget, but lower than the pack on Central. He was much closer on South. But, you know, we weren't going to give him the opportunity to take one and not the other. Either he takes them both, or he withdraws his bid. And he was all for it. He really wanted to do both jobs.
Yeah, because that locks him up for the summer. He doesn't have to bid any more work, so he's very excited that.
He's a mid-sized
early
shop.
on.
He's got about 30 employees. So he's going to be running about a dozen on each school. So, I mean, we're going to be the bulk of his work for this summer.
So I would have asked this once we did the HVAC as well. It sounds like you guys looked at both lowest and qualified, which is always my concern about the lowest bid.
Yes.
Are these fly-by-night outfits? And I'm not suggesting they are based on what you're saying. But the public bid process is a lot different than what some folks may be used to. And it's the qualified component that I always worry about, not necessarily the lowest number.
So one of the things at Pepper we do is we require everybody to be qualified. There's a pre-qualification process through Pepper, and that evaluates their financial standing and their safety standing. So those two components.
Do we look
are
at performance on other jobs too to see what
We look
those
at it on a-
customers have been satisfied or dissatisfied with?
case-by-case basis. Obviously, F&G having performed here for Archon previously, there was a relationship there. We did talk to some other people within Pepper, if they had any experience with them. I don't know that we found any previous Pepper experience. But we do talk to other people in cases that have worked with them in the air handling unit case. I'll talk a little bit about that, that we have had a previous experience with this company as well. But we do try and do reference checks and those types of things as well. Okay. Air handling units, again, this portion of the scope of the work, there's 8 air handling units that are being upgraded as part of the switchover from the steam to hot water heat. The reason for this early bid package was to make sure that we were able to release the air handling units, get them into the manufacturing line so we could get them here June 1st when we're ready to start the work. So as you can see, there's, again, pretty good spread all the way up to close to 700, all the way down to $324,000 for the work for Mechanical Concepts. Again, we met with Mechanical Concepts, the low bidder, and also MG Mechanical, the second low bidder, to kind of talk through everything with both of them, get a feel for where they were at with their number. Spent a good amount of time with Mechanical Concepts. We've had people that have worked with them. We actually brought them back after we met with them to walk through the job, walk through the site, access, and all that again. They were comfortable with the scope of work. Talked through their labor hours, their material, costs, went through every piece and component to make sure that they had it. Again, at the end of the conversation, we felt comfortable, they felt comfortable that they could meet our schedule and deliver the scope of work on time. So, went through that process, and we're going to recommend award to Mechanical Concepts, feeling confident in their ability to perform.
Can you refresh my memory of how that then coordinates with the future mechanical work that's connected to those units?
Right. So this will be really just setting the units themselves, reconnecting the ductwork. There's a little bit of louver work to the outside. We've got some relief hoods on the roof that are part of this scope. And then really that's it for this scope of work. They'll have the unit set, and then in bid period 2, we'll have the piping will be part of that package, and all the temperature controls that go along with these units are part of that package. So that's how we're kind of dividing. They're basically going to set, and then the other HVAC contractor will pipe to it and bring all the controls to it.
And then they'll come back for startup.
Yeah, they'll both be part of the startup.
When would the warranty start kicking in?
These will start up. We'll probably start everything up at the end of summer.
Okay.
So that'll be the warranty start for these units.
Bid package 2 is coming out in a month or so.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah. So
they'll
the timing of the
they'll
work.
both be on board per
Yep.
se. How do you deal with finger pointing under a warranty situation? Well, you said it. Well, you piped it. Who's doing what?
Well, really-
because these guys. Will
It's
finger
not
point.
uncommon in our industry to buy the the HVAC equipment and the ductwork separately from the piping, because truly most contractors don't do both.
They don't have plumbing and mechanical shops?
Some do,
Yeah.
some do, but the majority of them don't. Some are either a sheet metal shop or a piping shop. So it's
Right.
pretty common to buy the two and marry the two together. And even the temperature control, morning hornets. So even the temperature controls that operates them, a lot of times we'll buy them separately. So
Really where it's gonna get tricky is the temperature controls, which is always tricky. So, you know, we're gonna have to be cognizant of that as we move forward with the installations and, you know, the programming of the temperature controls, because now you've got one contractor that manages the actual equipment and another contractor that's gonna be responsible for the control of that. So it's gonna be tricky, and we're gonna have to be aware of that, but, again, this was the best way to deliver it, to make sure with the 8 units, and this doesn't include the other 2 units for the new spaces that we have. So really, we have 10 air handling units that we're trying to get in summer, and we had to get in line to get these here by, you know, June 1st to start the work.
and the other 2 units that we have to buy, one's for the library, one's for special ed.
Special ed, yep.
We elected not to to package these into this one because those have all brand new ductwork going to them plus the piping. So we just decided, you know what, since these are straight out replacements, let's get 80% of the units, you know, ordered. And the big thing too was we wanted the person that was ordering the units to install the units and be responsible for the units. So at least we've got a lot of single source responsibility right there. A lot of times you can do these pre-packaged, pre-purchase, and a lot of times that shotgun marriage creates more problems in my experience than what we're doing here. I feel a lot more confident about this than doing a pre-purchase.
Just a quick question about, we talked earlier about the boilers to replacement. When that just time frame, so, because now you're gonna have your piping coming ready, so that should be almost.
So that system really will all be part of that bid period too. So they're gonna have the boilers and the piping to all these units, right? So they'll have full responsibility for the actual piping and the boilers and the startup of the boilers. And again, we'll have these units that'll be part of this contractor's work. So again, you've got 2 working together, but at least we've got a contractor tied to these units, because as you may know, is sometimes dealing with the manufacturers, it's a little bit difficult. So that's, again, another reason not to go with a pre-purchase option where we're trying to work with the manufacturer. The HVAC contractors sometimes have a little bit more success, you know, if there are issues with the manufacturers. So, but to answer your question, that whole boiler and piping package will be part of bid period 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the nice thing about the boilers just don't have as long a lead time as the air handlings do. So we're actually bidding the boilers in our January bid package, along with the piping. Those 2 are going to go together in a combo package, because that's typically what you do. Whoever installs the boiler does all the piping.
Yeah.
Then they pipe it to the air handling unit. So it's really just a connection to the air handler. So it's not, there's very little risk associated with it. I mean, you're running, you know, chilled water and hot water to these units. It's not that complicated.
Marty, what's Pepper's experience with Mechanical Concepts and Archons?
So we've actually had Charles Lynch, who's one of our other project managers on the project. He's actually had previous experience with them up at Stevenson High School. They've done a lot of work up at Stevenson High School, and he's had good experiences with them. I think Pepper's had a couple experiences with them. Really no major issues that we were made aware of. And again, we know Joe Sinise, again, came in, sat down with him, walked through everything with him, and he was confident in everything that he had as far as the scope of work goes.
Great.
Does Pepper have a procurement group?
You're looking at him.
I mean, for long lead, you know, like for mechanical equipment, for generators, things like that, where you guys actually purchase it and then assign it to somebody else, and then you assign the installation and everything else and the responsibility for that unit.
So we don't have a separate procurement group. It would be the project management team that's involved in the job would do that.
And so you guys elected not to go that route versus having a sub set it and then have somebody else pipe it and do all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I did a pre-purchase last summer for a project, and it was some air handlers and some unit vents, and it just kind of soured me on that process. Because the problem you run into when you do a pre-purchase is you've got a basis of design. And then you've got acceptable manufacturers. And the problem we ran into is, you know, not all the acceptable manufacturers provided all the bells and whistles that the basis of design, and we didn't realize that until it came to the submittal time, and it really just slowed things down, and it put more onus on ownership and us, where we could have shed that responsibility to the HVAC contractor. That's his responsibility. So.
And quite honestly, Kurt, these guys know this equipment so well, and it's constantly changing, and we're trying to keep up with the manufacturers and how they merge together and that type of thing. And these guys know those ins and outs way better than we do. And so when we say, hey, this is what the installation is going to look like, this is what the system's going to look like, they know those little nuances, and again, making them responsible for that. And then they've got liability for that system rather than saying, okay, Pepper's going to give you a unit and you have to make it work, and that's where you get more of that, what you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, I've had experience in it, but I've had the opposite, where we've had great success on that, plus we save the double markups, you know. So
What's
it's a
gotten
little
tricky
bit
for
cost
us
saving.
in our experience is when it comes to any kind of issues with the startup and service and warranty.
Right.
Because if like the CM's buying the stuff direct, somehow you're cutting someone out of a commission. And then no one wants to come out and look at the unit unless you pay them to come out and look at the unit.
No, they assign that to the subcontractor. Subcontractors know when they go in to bid it that we bought the unit, it's coming, this is exactly what we bought, you own it.
One of the other challenges that we have is we have 8 air handling units that are all going inside the building. And they're all going in different areas.
Yep.
And they need to be broken apart. So the amount of sections that you have, you know, it costs you more from the manufacturing side, and it also costs you more from the installation side. That's one of the main reasons
Unless you
that.
buy modular units, which are designed that way to be, they're manufactured that way, and then you bring them in and you actually assemble them in pieces.
And that's what these are. These are
Right.
going to be modular
Okay.
units.
Yeah, some of them have to fit through 3070 doorways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got the same challenge on one of mine.
But your point is correct, though. We do evaluate to say, hey, if we've got a $500,000 pre-purchase package, do we evaluate pre-purchase, and what does that do for the markups? In this case, for the 8 units, I think we were, it's $100,000 worth of equipment. We weighed that risk versus saying, markup on that.
Right.
And again, getting them to the final, because we've got basement, and we've got 3rd floor that we're craning in through the louvers up there. So again, we wanted that responsibility to get those units to where they need to go.
Right.
And then them coordinate that, so.
One of the
taken.
other challenges we run into too with the pre-purchase is, we did it last year, we sent them a purchase order, but, and the manufacturers know that purchase order is only temporary, because eventually we're gonna assign an HVAC contractor, so we just know when we bid this through an HVAC contractor, the manufacturer's getting a purchase order that's final. So when the submittal's approved, we know this stuff's going into fabrication. I feel like we lost out last year because we had equipment that came a little later because the manufacturer just didn't put it into production until the sub was on board and their PO was executed and everything was finalized. So.
Yeah, see, we didn't do it like that. It was final with the CM.
Yeah. But were you trying to do your work over the summer when all the other contractors are trying to put air handlers in the school? That's the problem we're encountering. We have every school in the state of Illinois trying to do their work over the summer, along with all the other private projects. So we want to be basically first in line. So that's really one of the main
Yeah,
reasons.
no, I understand. We compete with data centers, who buy up all the generators.
Right.
So yeah, I understand competitive and trying to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I understand.
So, again, back to the overall picture. So 4.2 is the overall low bid for all 4 packages with the accepted alternates. One of the alternates I did want to bring up that was the alternate that was accepted at the tennis courts, just to clarify that. We had an alternate just so we could evaluate the cost of it. Really what this was is to saw cut joints between all the tennis courts, and really this is controlling the cracking. This is Ericsson's design. So really, rather than having cracking on the courts themselves, you're creating saw cut joints between the tennis courts to allow the movement of the pavement. District and Ericsson felt that this was in the best interest to accept this one, so this will be part of the package as well.
It was like 11,000 or something.
Yeah, 11,800 for both locations. So so worth the cost. So again, the 4.2 overall, the first three line items, the tennis courts, the track surface, the roofing, really right on target, and then a lot of our good fortune came with the air handling unit, low bid. So that's where that 5% under budget overall for this bid period really comes into place from that air handling unit package.
So what's the total of the awards then?
4.242 million.
And the budget was?
It was right, whatever, 5 or 6% below that.
So
I don't have that number in front of me.
The budget was lower than that? or
Above that. You said.
Yeah,
The
these
budget was above, sorry. The
bids came in
bids
under
came in 5%
under
under.
right now.
And most of that obviously is with our low number for the air handling unit package.
Is the performance of pay bonds included in these prices?
Yes.
And do all your subcontractors,
Yes,
no matter the dollar amount?
yes,
Bond, yes.
Performance of pay bond?
Yep.
correct,
Not bid bond, performance of pay bond?
Yep.
correct.
Right, okay.
You don't do SubGuard on top of that, do you?
Any
Anything
other questions on bid period
In
one?
the future, could you put the budget on
Yeah.
sheets?
Yeah, the bottom line, yeah, we can do that.
Thank you. You know, line by line.
Contingency?
Yeah, so we had a discussion with the district about how we wanted to handle construction contingency. You saw last month, we were showing that we were carrying like 5% from program, our program estimate as well as in our DD estimate. And as we roll into construction, we'll have to determine what that actual percentage is that everyone's comfortable with rolling into construction. So the plan with contingency, you can do it a couple of different ways, contingency and or allowances. So one of the options is you can put allowances in all the trade contractor packages, so when they bid it, the allowances are incorporated into their dollar amount. So HVAC, maybe it's a $50,000 allowance. The other way to do that is you just set a separate contingency off to the side, and it's not built into the prime trade contractors numbers. And we've spoke to the district, and the district prefers to do it that way, not build allowances into the prime trade contractors. For a couple of different reasons. Sometimes, you just get that feeling like they think that money is ultimately theirs. So we've chosen to just basically carry the contingency underneath the subcontractors. And then we'll use a contingency disbursement log. So we'll basically, whenever a change order arises, we'll get the information in, we'll review it, we'll put together a change request, we'll submit it to the architect and Cotter. We'll review it internally. Once it's acceptable, we'll send it to the client. Once the client reviews it, approves it, it'll be a line item on this log, it'll get approved, and then it'll get funded from contingency. The money goes from contingency to whichever subs, those change orders may affect. So we'll have a log that'll track all this. We'll have a overall log to show, all right, we started with $5 million contingency, and these are all the transactions that came out, and here's our remaining contingency. And then the administration will review that monthly with the board, just to give them a status update of, here's the change requests that have been approved within the last month, and here's where our current contingency is. So the board's got a monthly update of where we stand. Any questions?
Good morning, Hicksville South, and happy Friday.
That increases your paperwork, doesn't it?
No, not
You're amending
necessarily.
a contract every time as opposed to including allowances kind of in theirs.
Yeah,
and
you know what,
just
honestly,
managing
I
it.
prefer,
I do too.
I prefer
think you're
this
doing the
way.
right thing, but it's a lot more paperwork for you guys.
Just a little bit more, it's a little more time and effort, for the project team to sit down and review these collectively rather than just, taking it out of an allowance that's already prescribed, but it's a good open process.
it's actually, honestly, it gets confusing when you have all these allowances, because you run into situations where one guy's allowance is tapped, and now we gotta pull from some other, it just
No,
gets
I
messy.
agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But it puts a little bit more burden on
It
you.
does.
I think
It's
everybody
just so
should
much
know
cleaner.
that you're taking that burden on.
Yeah, it's just a little cleaner. Seems to work better. We've been kind of heading in this direction for the last 5 years, almost about 5 years.
So will this be available on your website or? Or is this not a
By
valid?
the way, for our faculty.
This becomes a monthly report that we
Yeah.
float through facilities and the board events. It's always a public document.
Right, this is just a sample, there's no change,
No, I understand.
there's none, no change orders to date, so, but yeah, Tammy's correct. We'll bring this to facilities on a monthly basis, and then the administration will share with the board.
So how do committee members get access to that? Just, that's the question.
When you log into Board Docs, you see the
Yeah.
administrative content already.
See what?
So the Board Docs is divided into public content, administrative content.
Right.
So as a special committee, when you log in with your code, you can already see it, the document. It's on the administrative side.
Yeah, but under what? Maybe on.
On the agenda itself. So like there'll be a standing agenda item for construction contingency eventually.
Oh, for this meeting?
Mhm.
Okay, I thought it maybe was like committee of the whole or something. Okay.
Anything else on that topic? Everybody okay? So we'll talk just a couple minutes about the ComEd incentive program. So we had a call a few weeks ago, with the ComEd engineer that's been assigned to our project. Kind of walked him through really the overall scope of work for the project. Kind of talked a little bit about phasing with them. And really what came out of that conversation was that they wanted to wait for the phase 2 design to fully evolve, to really evaluate the overall scope of the incentive for the project. And we were, very clear with them. We wanted to make sure that wasn't going to affect the overall benefit to the district. And they were clear that whether we do it now as phase 1 and then again as phase 2, or the overall scope of work for the project, it really wasn't going to sway the potential incentive for the project at all. So we're going to meet with them probably in January after we put bid period 2 out, just to touch base with them, help them understand the phasing a little bit more in detail, what the scope of work for each of the projects is, and what the overall electrical scope is. But really, for the most part, they're going to wait for that bid period 3, which is phase 2 work that we're going to advertise probably in August, later this fall, and then evaluate everything overall for the whole project, and then weigh what the potential incentive is for the project. One of the things we did confirm with them is that the boiler incentive, you get one or the other. You get the ComEd incentive or the NICOR. You don't get to double up on both of those credits, is what ComEd has told us. So we'll evaluate that and figure out which has more benefit to the district, whether we go through NICOR or include that as part of the ComEd new construction program.
The boiler you're designing did they confirm it potentially would receive an incentive?
Still to be confirmed. I think we have some details that we have to get back to them as far as the models and how that system works. But again, that's part of that design evaluation. But there will be an incentive available there.
Because you're bidding it next
In January.
month.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Will they tell you before that? I mean, I understand you may not know the amount, but will they tell you if it's going to receive an incentive?
Yeah, that's something that MSA I think is working on putting together for ComEd, so we can send that out ahead of it. Really to sort of give them that system overview of the boilers, and how that system works. But
No, you're right, but we need to make sure that the efficiency
Right.
that we're speccing and bidding will at least meet NICOR's requirements. We don't necessarily, we'll probably end up with more incentive out of NICOR on the boilers than we're gonna ever get out of ComEd, I think. But, so you're right, we need to make sure that we run that past NICOR to make sure that that boiler meets their requirements to get into the program.
Do you have any comment on the air handling units?
ComEd?
Yes.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Anything else on that? Good. Good.
All right, this one's me. This is a follow-up to earlier discussions about making sure we're exploring opportunities for other sustainable initiatives, and early on in the process, we want to keep in mind the opportunities and evaluate them as we go. We had talked about new construction being possible applications for, in this case, we're looking at solar panels. And we thought, well, we're closing in on the design for the pool. Let's look at that for solar panels. So there have been a lot of emails going back and forth with Nick and Pepper and me and back and forth. The original thought was we'd smear the whole roof with solar panels. However, Nick, feel free to chime in here, but it is an energy code requirement to use daylighting for your space like this. So all those little squarish things you see, those are solar tubes that are providing daylighting to the pool. And that would be a problem if we turned around and put in solar panels all over it, because then we would be shading your daylighting. So that's limiting the area that we can use for solar panels. That said, just if you don't mind my chiming in here with a thought, a concept that good, responsible, sustainable design should always begin with energy conservation. And so using daylighting for your pool, not only is it an energy code requirement, but it is also significant energy savings to do that. So bottom line, again, we looked at, well, where could we still go ahead and identify some solar panel fields on this roof that would not be shading the solar tubes. So, and also keeping in mind that that would require us to beef up the structure below, because we're now adding roof load. So the approximate cost for beefing up the steel underneath this is about $35,000. The solar panel installation, as illustrated there, has an approximate installation cost, and these are 2019 dollars, of about $45,000. And by the way, I got these numbers right from a contractor who's doing a solar panel installation for the College of Lake County. So they're fresh numbers, is what I'm saying about that. And then a lot of us have probably heard about the solar renewable energy credits, the SRECs, that are available. So the current value of those SRECs would be about $6,000 a year for the first 5 years, based on projected annual power generation of this array, which would be 42 panels of 18,000 kilowatt hours, again, per year. And so just to look at, well, does this financially make sense to do? At the current D86 average cost per kilowatt hour, I got the utility bills from Karen. You're paying about 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So your projected annual savings would be about $1,800. Now I say there, I'm escalating that at 2.6%. The reason I use 2.6% is an energy cost escalator that the solar contractors are using right now to model their paybacks and so forth. It's a little bit high, but if I brought it down, then the payback is actually even worse. So the approximate payback period for this installation would still be greater than 20 years. So I want to bring that to your attention. And then I also, adding on to that, again, some of you may be familiar with power purchase agreements that schools and other entities are jumping into. The other side of that is there's an investment tax credit available for these installations of about 30% of the installed cost. And the school cannot take advantage of an investment tax credit, but an installing contractor who is for-profit can. And that's sometimes the hook for a PPA, power purchase agreement, to financially pay back. But I did put that in my model also, and it was still a payback of a little bit more than 20 years. It improved it, but it was longer than than the expected life of the system. So the thing that's tipping this scale is the need to beef up the structure underneath it at $35,000. It's almost doubling the cost of this small array installation. So we don't need to decide on the whole solar panel idea and all that, but ARCON would need immediate direction about whether or not you want to beef up the structure in those areas for about an additional $35,000. But I want to make sure that everybody understands the whole picture before we spend perhaps good money chasing that. And then also, to add to that is, Lance, you and I talked about this, we can still continue to evaluate options for this as they come along. The cost of the steel here with that size span and so forth, there may be other either addition or renovation areas that may be more economical for us to do this, so we can continue to look at that. But this is the whole, this is, you know, that fully informed decision. This is what the whole thing looks like. I don't love the numbers. That's what I'm saying.
One question.
Yeah,
And this is maybe old history, but what is life expectancy of a solar panel?
20 years at
There you
max.
go. So you're gonna replace them in 20 years.
And my life expectancy, my payback on this is greater than the life of the panels, so.
Okay, so that's why I didn't know if that
Don't love
changed.
it.
Okay.
Don't love the numbers. Any thoughts on, any additional thoughts on whether or not, yeah, I think I've seen a lot of this going.
All we can do is hope for better technology quickly, lighter panels, so we don't have to beef up the structure, and maybe someday you could put them in.
That's a possibility, possibility.
I have one other question. I guess maybe I missed that on the drawings. What is a solar tube lighting?
It's a daylighting device. It's similar, there's several different options we can.
It's a skylight.
It's like
Skinny skylight.
Round skylight.
But it's not, you know, like a light tube, you bring light in to
I mean, it's a round skylight, basically has a kind of a duct connected to it that drops from the roof structure, the deck, all the way down through that interstitial space, through the ceiling, and then it's got a damper on it that you can open and close.
So don't we have exterior windows?
We do.
You
Why do
do,
we-
but it's, energy code now requires at certain volume of spaces that have ceiling heights in excess of what we have in the pool, that you have to bring in daylight harvesting devices, so either skylights or these solar tubes.
No matter how many windows you have.
No matter, we could have walls of windows.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah.
It's not one that, it's not one that we're
Are these like
particularly fond
the
of.
specular, like it's a
Correct.
specular tube that comes down really
Correct.
shiny and all that, so it really, you don't get any light loss for the most part?
There's very little ceiling in the natatorium space. It's all exposed structure, so really it's just the penetration.
Oh, yeah.
through the structure. But yes, it's a,
This gives better light distribution rather than larger skylights, I'm assuming.
correct.
You know,
Plus they're
bigger, you know,
less.
you're doing less openings, that kind of thing.
They're less prone to leaking.
Oh.
We're not big fans of roof leaks.
And does South have this issue or not?
It will.
It will.
We can look at when
Even though it's, well,
Yeah, you know, and that's an example, we can look at the addition at South to see, you know, once Archon puts their solar tubes on it, or whatever device you decide to use, we can also still evaluate that, see if that may make sense.
even though, okay.
So as far as 2.4 is concerned, thank you for letting us know and
Exactly.
moving on.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Okay.
say, take a straw poll or something, Keith, so
I don't-
facilities knows. I mean, it seems like a novelty for me. It's just,
Not
to say we did it is great, and we could use the
It's-
extra 100,000, give or take, for other parts of the projects,
And then you gotta replace it in 20 years.
right?
Yeah, so, you know, we can keep looking, but this is what the numbers actually look like. Okay. Nick, you're up. The open questions?
Sure. Do we want to do the straw poll, or are we just saying no?
Straw poll.
Nay.
Nay.
No.
The horses have it.
All right, so real quick, 2 items here. We did have a follow-up question after the last facility committee meeting in regards to the fire alarm voice notification. The question, so the whole group can hear, was a clarification between, there is a line item in the referendum to update both schools' mass notification system, and that's your PA system, your public address system. And there is a difference between the voice notification requirements for the fire alarm and your PA system. So the question was, is the mass notification system with 2-way callback speakers listed on the referendum project listing a separate system versus the voice notification required by the local fire departments? The answer is yes. The follow-up to that, if it is a separate system, would we be able to combine it into one, potentially saving some money? That was evaluated during the design phase, and unfortunately, no, we cannot combine those systems. The two reasons we cannot combine those is one, fire alarm systems have to be UL rated, and currently there's no UL listing for a combined two-way communication PA system and voice notification for the fire alarm. And currently there's no manufacturer out there that has a system that could work as a PA with two-way callback and voice notification, which is one-way. There are combined systems out there, but they're not UL rated and they do not have that callback feature, which is what we need for mass notification. So we did evaluate that, and unfortunately it's not an option. Just a quick update on zoning. We're going to hammer this one to death at facility committee meetings. The signs have been posted for the public hearing on December 18th. So you'll see that out at Central. Certified letters have been also sent out. We are also submitting next week, December 11th, for the concurrent plan commission. That application is due on the 11th for the meeting on January 8th. Okay? So the next meeting we have is the public hearing on December 18th. Any questions on the update? Okay.
Do we want to mention rallying support for the December 18th meeting? You guys.
And again, just to reinforce that if there's any positive community support at the public hearing on December 18th, it will go a long way. It's the opportunity, we did send out, was it 250 letters? Or no, it was more than
It's
that.
like 80 something.
It was about 80? It was about 80?
80 to 90.
It was within 250 feet of property.
Yes, yes.
So about 80 letters went out to the surrounding community. The signs have been posted, so it's the opportunity for the community to come in and voice their opinions. So if there's any people that may have a negative opinion out there, we love to offset that with the committee and anybody that we can rally that can give us positive support.
Is that a 6 o'clock start time or 6:30?
6:30.
There is a Board of Education meeting that night. We're doing our self-eval goals, so we can't attend. Jess will be there, but certainly anyone from the special committee or your contacts we would greatly appreciate it. It's just that the board members are tied up in a board meeting that starts at 6.
So I'd love to come and support the thing, but I don't think I've gotten the letter. I'm sure I would have been one of the people within the zone that should have gotten the letter, nor have I seen what the district is proposing. So kind of hard to show support something. I'll be seeing it for the first time at the December 18th meeting, or the December 11th meeting. So.
Your name was definitely on the list with your address.
Yeah,
You have to sign for it. Did it?
It was certified. It was certified in US. I signed it.
They were sent. November 26th.
Yeah, I signed
They were
before
sent just
Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
The
well,
last
what-
to know at my house, so.
We had to do it certified and regular.
Right, yeah.
Your tax dollars at work for postage.
Were there any comments at the last meeting?
The committee was pretty receptive to it, wants to work with the school district. There were some odd comments about eminent domain, about the school trying to take over. At Central in the southwest corner, there is still 3 residential lots that are, otherwise the school would have 2 full blocks. Why hasn't the district thought about purchasing those residences to turn it into parking? And our responses were that, it's irrelevant. Parking really wouldn't work within the parcel that's island there right now. And the district wants to be a good neighbor, and we don't really consider eminent domain trying to take over somebody's property for something that wouldn't work being a good neighbor. So
Yes, and finance would then have the inenviable task of explaining to taxpayers why we just spent a couple $1 million to buy parking lot space. Yeah, that's going to go over.
For parking lot space that wouldn't function.
Yeah.
And we did mention the financial component, that the property values for those parcels are well beyond the means of the district to purchase, and this doesn't make sense. So he said no thank you to that.
Would it be helpful, maybe if Jess sent out a letter, the letter that we sent to those 86 families to the special committee, so that you had a copy of the letter that they received? So we could send that out today, just so you know what was actually sent out. We'll send it to your email.
And I thought we had updated, didn't we update? We sent the,
We sent talking points when you had your last meeting.
did we have the drawings attached to the talking points?
Yeah.
So we had at least.
Yeah, I think so. For the preliminary meeting, I had sent something out, but we could send out the letter. Again, just a special committee, email it out to the, it's its own email. Special
Yeah, I watched the
committee,
video, it seemed like they were pretty receptive. I didn't see any big warning signs from the ZBA.
No, it was pretty receptive, it just kind of took a turn into the weeds at the end.
I mean, my thought is, even if the school wanted to put a parking lot over there, I think the pushback would be really hard on that parking lot. Because the houses in that area,
Right.
You're right on top of
down.
those residents. It doesn't make sense.
It'd be a terrible space to get in and out of in the
Yes.
morning or afternoon.
Be disastrous.
It's always backed up at that stop sign. Okay.
Crosswalks. I'll turn it over to Jess.
That's me, but I won't stand up. I don't enjoy that very much.
There's an extra seat up here, Jess.
Yeah, that feels like the hot seat. So there's been concerns at Hinsdale South with the safety of students using the current crosswalks. Not only during the day, I've used them, and you kind of start walking with one foot and hope the car down the road will stop for you. But also after hours, when there's not, anyone employed to be, crosswalk attendant or anything like that. So we reached out to the Village of Darien to see what some of our options would be to make those crosswalks a little safer. And the two options that we were given by them were option one, as you can see up there, are the flashing signs that are solar powered. They'd be on either side of the street at each crosswalk. And option two would be actually in-street flashing crosswalk lights. So they would trench through the asphalt, and it's AC powered. They'd run electric, and the lights would flash actually in the crosswalks. I haven't personally seen them, but other people have in areas around Chicagoland.
They were in Westbound over by the railroad tracks. Because they have an issue there, right? It's just south of the tracks on Cass.
Yeah. I asked the Village of Darien which one was more effective. In my head, I have an idea which one is more effective, and they, said obviously the in-street lights are more effective, gather more attention. I think we just see so many flashing signs nowadays that a lot of people just don't slow down for them as they should. We talked about sharing the cost, either, the district pays 50% of installation and then pays 50% of the maintenance through the life of the devices, or the district could pay for the initial installation and they cover the maintenance costs for the duration, the lifespan of those devices. I think the district kind of feels that it's cleaner to probably split those responsibilities rather than trying to hassle out maintenance costs and split them through the, 10 years that they probably will last. The costs that they were given to us ranged from $8,000 to get the 2 solar-powered signs for each crosswalk to $19,000 for the in-street crosswalk lights. We also took the opportunity, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the crosswalks on Clarendon Hills Road. There's one at 75th, and then there's 3 that span in between 75th Street and Elm Street. And the most northern one is in really close proximity to the second crosswalk. So there we go. We're taking this opportunity to talk to administration at South about what that most northern one use is for students. Is it, heavily used, or could we just bring it down to just the 2 crosswalks since they're so close, and fund crosswalk lights for 2 crosswalks rather than 3. And the administration agreed that we could eliminate that third most northern crosswalk. So I've reached out to the Village of Darien with that, and we're currently in the process of defining scope and responsibility of what that would entail. So there'll be more information forthcoming with that. So we just wanted to give everybody in this room just an update on that, because it was concerns that have been voiced, and we're trying to address them. Is there any questions regarding that?
Good. One curiosity, is that necessarily a referendum issue, or is it?
No,
Operational.
it's operational.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
operational dollars that we would use next summer to add those crosswalk lights in.
Would that eliminate the crossing guard?
We would probably still have the crossing guard, so the crossing guard's there for before and after school. Our primary concern is just because the student parking lot is obviously opposite of Clarendon Hills Road. You have a lot of students that are leaving the building, especially in the wintertime in the dark. So it just helps, increase the level of safety for those students.
Not only that, but PE is
Yeah.
always crossing to use the athletic facilities across the street during the day, and we don't have crossing guards there.
It almost seems like streetlights would be something, especially if it's at night.
Yeah, in the administrative content, I don't know if we can pull it up on here. We put a link to show you what it actually looks like, and it does a nice job. It shows it during the day and at night, and it is very pleasantly obnoxious. The system, well, that I think cars would actually stop to what just saying, I think those, the vertical horizontal ones, people sort of ignore, and Clarendon Hills Road is kind of a quick road if it's not like a mass exit. So in the board docs, there is a link if you wanted to actually see the system that Jess referred to that was actually in the pavement, and it shows it both daytime and nighttime. And it definitely that dusk time, we also have early bird PE, absolutely cars would be much more aware. And there's a button, so then the pedestrian, hit the button, and that's what activates the street piece, and it is very obnoxious.
Yeah,
And
I
cars
failed
would
to
absolutely know
mention
what
that.
from a
Both of them,
distance.
you push the button and then they start
Yes.
flashing.
From experience, the one in the road is actually, it's more
Okay.
effective.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw the one on Cass. I mean, it really caught my eye.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of visual clutter there, what's
Yes.
going on. So.
Yeah, those do a nice job. I had not seen them before, so there is a link if you would like to see.
I was just thinking, like, we just even supplement it with a street light. Just to light up the crosswalk specifically, unless there's already street lighting all the way along that.
There is
Street lighting on Clarendon Hills Road. As far as are they directly over the crosswalks, I don't have a visual. I'll look when I leave now.
Yeah. That's something that the village could provide.
Just a question, who plows that street? Because that's usually the issue.
Yeah, that's the Village of Darien.
Is it Darien? I didn't know if it was Darien there, because obviously they have to be aware.
Yeah, they definitely have to be aware. And that's kind of why we want them to be,
Yeah. Because
responsible
that's
for
the
maintenance.
most likely candidate to damage it.
Right.
Good point. Simple.
Okay. I didn't
While
know.
not an authority in this area by any means, I will champion this because I did bring it up. I travel Clarendon Hills Road a lot, particularly around school times and after school in particular, and it's just a mess. Anything to increase people paying attention, I think, is helpful. I'm frustrated because Tammy knows this, I brought this up 18 months ago to Dr. Law, and we missed, in my opinion, an opportunity when Clarendon Hills Road was repaved this year. There was electrical work done for Darien at the same time. I doubt they're gonna move or install additional streetlights, and considering when I raised this with Darien, their immediate response was, sure, we'll do it if you pay for it. I'm not optimistic they're gonna put overhead lighting in, so we've talked at the board level about this. There are a number of crosswalks. I think it makes sense to condense. And don't forget that at the south end, which would be the bottom part of the parking lot, we have a fair number, or not a fair number, we have a high use from transitions coming over and crossing as well. So anything that gets people's attention, I think would be helpful. And if you want to see, the video is good, but Steve's right. Just someday when you're bored, drive up Cass to the tracks in Westmont, particularly in the morning, and it's even in broad daylight, that really does get your attention.
That's a great idea.
So So we'll continue to update you. We just reached out to Darian, so we're sort of figuring out the,
And Jess, just so we're clear, the
Splitting the hairs
cost
of
estimates
money.
they give you are only for one crosswalk. So if we were looking at two lighted, we would-
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if we wanted
32,
two in
33.
street, we're looking at almost
There-
39,000.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, there's actual quotes.
right, I saw the numbers there, I just wanted to make sure we
I
were
think
clear.
probably that's for the power because of the AC. They don't have solar, they don't have solar for the trench one.
That's right.
Because I think it's
AC
also
power,
AC
yeah.
power, and you cannot tie it to the lighting too, it's a
Right.
dedicated circuit.
No, no numbers.
All right, so I think that takes care of our section 2. We don't have nobody signed up for audience communication, so it looks like we're gonna forego that today, even by the most informal standards. Any committee comments at this point?
I have a couple
Yes.
questions. Last month, or last meeting, you talked about the sprinkler, Legionella. Is there any update on that?
We don't have any updates on this time.
Okay.
We're still working towards it.
And then mine is more procedural. I posed a question that was answered, thank you. But if we do have questions, any committee member, what is the proper way of asking questions?
during a meeting or outside of the meeting?
Outside of, after the meeting, by email. Who should we send our emails to?
I'd say to either.
Either
probably to
myself
Jess
or
to-
Jess, and then we'll get it to the right person.
Okay, all right. And should I include all the committee members or not?
When we receive an email, then we always copy everyone on the response, so just that's why they added the item today, so everyone had that information from your good question.
Okay.
I
Yep.
think the only issue would be that we don't start gauging in a back and forth.
So OMA, you don't have the conversation on email, but we will take the question, and then we will get the answer and push it back out, or just say, hey, great topic, we're adding it to the agenda item, because it might need further discussion.
Okay, all right, just wanted to know.
No, absolutely, no, good question.
Just to go back and respond to Steve's question about the track systems and what manufacturer, verified and was able to remember. It's the Spurton system.
Oh, it's a good
You're
system.
familiar with that?
Yeah,
It's kind of our go-to.
yeah, they're good. Good.
All right, moving on. As a reminder, committee meeting minutes can be viewed in board, whoop, huh? No, thought I heard something, okay. Committee meeting minutes can be viewed in board docs. If there are no changes needed to the draft minutes released by the board, can I have a motion to adopt the November 15th, 2019 Joint Facilities and Special Committee meeting minutes released as draft by the Board of Education, which if we don't have a quorum,
Well-
it has to be just
No, it's
Kevin
a
and I.
facility.
Facility, we have a quorum.
Yeah, so I'll adopt that motion.
I'll second it. Roll call vote.
Member Camden.
I have to abstain, I was not present, but they look good from what I read.
Member Cheval.
Aye.
And Member Turk is not here.
All right, so it carries the day. I feel powerful. All right, do I have a motion, a second, to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 8:34.
We're efficient today.
Thank you very much, everybody.